This is the Talkin Bout the Hoosiers podcast, presented by TheHoosier.com. We are back for another edition of the Hoosier.com postgame wrap-up. I'm joined by Staley, who is at Assembly Hall right now. I'm Drew Rosenberg, and the Indiana Hoosiers dropped their fourth straight game, 77-64, this time to Michigan State. It was one of those games where Indiana just hung around the entire time, but was never able to really make it a game. I think the Indiana never led in the game. I'm trying to think. It was 5, I want to say, 4 point. They were down 4 or 5, but it was never a one-possession game in the second half.
No, I mean, like you just said, it was like one of those games where it felt like Indiana did hang around in that 8 to 10 point gap right there. But it just felt like every time they go on a run, how good Michigan State is and how experienced they are. They were able to just hit big shots, and it would just take all the momentum out of Indiana's whatever they were trying to build. And then you also look at in the second half. Sorry for all the background noise too, but you look at the second half. Only Lamar Wilkerson and Tucker DeVries were the only two guys to hit a field goal. That just can't happen. You can't just have those guys solely be it. And I'll give major props to Tucker DeVries. I thought he played a really good game, one of his better games in a long time, and I thought he brought it on both ends of the floor and tried to bring a spark to Indiana when they needed it to. But it's just it's pretty glaringly obvious that Indiana's just not at that level of these top teams. It's very obvious from a talent standpoint. It's obvious from a scheme standpoint and everything. So it's a rough one because obviously you had a really good opportunity to kind of bounce back from that Northwestern loss, but Indiana's dug themselves a hole, and unfortunately, it just looks like it's going to be a little bit too deep for them to finally get out of it.
Yeah, I mean, so Kyler, every single time we do one of these throughout the game, I have a little Google Doc where I'll put a little notes of what's going on, things I want to talk about. I think for the last, honestly, you could go back 10 games, it's probably been the same exact notes. Even in the wins, it's rebounding isn't good. Who's going to score other than Lamar Wilkerson? Today was Tucker DeVries stepped up. He had 20, but you mentioned other than them too, Indiana really had nothing. Sam Alexis had some good moments, but was in foul trouble. And when Reed Bailey was in, he offered nothing. Tough game for Reed Bailey. The student section kind of booing him like that. You shouldn't be doing it. Reed Bailey wants to win more than anyone in that student section. I can promise you that.
Yeah,
booing a guy like that, especially a college kid, it's not going to help anyone. We have been extremely critical of Reed Bailey's play. I'm not going to pretend I've been praising him and he's been this unbelievable player, because you and I have been very critical of his play. But at the same time, you can't be booing your own guys. Reed Bailey, it's not going to help him play better. That's
No, it's not, and I'm glad you mentioned something like that, because I'll be the first to say, whatever the student section, it was mostly the student section I was doing this, but that absolutely pathetic by the student section to do that. And I would tell any student that was doing that, right to their face, that was just absolutely pathetic. What they were doing, it hurts a player's confidence like that. And yeah, we know Reed Bailey's not had a great year, right? And he's been put in really tough situations and stuff, and he's going out there and he's trying to compete his hardest and stuff. But when you've got fans that are booing when he comes into the game and cheering when he leaves, it's just not great. Not great at all. And it was kind of a really pathetic. Just a pathetic thing that had happened this game.
Yeah, he was bad tonight. I guess this afternoon. There's no other way to put it. I was at 7 minutes, no points, no rebounds, no assists, had a block and a steal, but 3 fouls, also got dunked on. Just was not, a really forgettable performance from him. Both bigs in foul trouble. That's a recipe for disaster with the way this roster is built. We talk about, we kind of thought it was Indiana wants to shoot the 3 ball. That's the way they want to play. You can't really, it's hard to do that with out a point guard that can really shoot the 3 ball. Connor Enright, for all he does, people might not think I am, Connor Enright, I like Connor Enright a lot, but if he's your lead guard and when you need the spacing, need to shoot, teams are daring him to shoot the 3 ball, and he's a streaky shooter. When it's on, it's on. Today it wasn't. He was 1 for 7, 1 for 5 from 3. Not his best game. I would have liked to see more Tatum Connerway coming off his best game of the year. He only played 7 minutes. So what's going on there? Is he still hurt? A lot of just weird stuff there for but again, I mean, I'm going to swear it's the same shit every time, Kyler. Every single game, it's the same shit. It's rebounding, the lack of size, bigs in foul trouble. Who's going to score other than Lamar Wilkerson? And I know Indiana fans, I mean, we see it. We see it in the message boards. Indiana fans are tired of it. They're upset. And, I've always been, you got to give a coach time. I'm going to give Darren DeVries, the benefit of the doubt. This is year one. This should be if it doesn't get better next year, then you start having the conversation of he might not be the guy. But year one, you can't have that conversation. It's too early.
No, you unfortunately can't really have that conversation right now. And you touched on. I mean, it's just I still am like a big believer on what Coach DeVries is kind of doing. I do think that his style of play works in this modern era. It's just the fact that he just doesn't have the horses right now. When you have literally two guys like Lamar Wilkerson, 29 points, Tucker DeVries, 20 points. Those are your only two double-figure scorers. Like, it's going to be a bad night. You're not going to be able to beat a team like a Michigan State, even at home. I think it was Zach Browning, and I might butcher this stat, but I saw where he had tweeted out and said that Indiana's won only 3 of their last 7 home games. Just terrible. Like, it's just the Assembly Hall factor when you're not taking advantage of, a tough road environment for all these teams coming into Assembly Hall, when you're not taking advantage of having one of the best crowds in the country, like it's kind of just tells you what this team is. And when you look at what Indiana needs to do in the offseason, and I know we still got the Big Ten tournament, we still got 2 more games left, but when you jump ahead and look into the offseason, Indiana's going to have to get rebounding. They're going to have to get a legit front court. You're going to have to get size. Yeah, you got to get size, and with that size, you're going to have to build around shooters. You're going to have to get guys that can space the floor. But I mean, for Indiana to play the way that they want to play, it all starts with that front court. Now that may sound weird because obviously they're a heavy 3-point shooting team, but it all starts with the front court. And if they have a legit front court that can obviously make an impact in the game in the post, rebounding, defending, protecting the rim, things like that, they can be a pretty good team. But right now, it's just you're seeing this team's kind of almost out of gas in a lot of ways, and they're not getting help from anybody else, around Lamar Wilkerson on a consistent basis. And I wouldn't say this team's checked out by any means, but, you're getting down to your last couple games and stuff, and nothing's getting better. This team could start checking out much sooner than later.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned, the lack of bigs and, having, you hope this is a learning lesson for Darren DeVries. He realized, hey, you need, traditional, like, true big, like, guys who can battle on the interior. You need depth there to compete in the Big Ten. And, part of, I think, the problem, too, when, going back to the portal, the center market was awful. I mean, if you really went through, like, the top centers in the portal, there were some good ones. There were some impact guys. But you were paying JT Toppin, like Lamar Wilkerson money for an okay starting center in this portal. And with Indiana having to fill in a completely brand new roster, it made it difficult for them to, justify spending $3-4 million on a center that's, not like that much better than what they have now. And I think that was part of the hesitancy, to overpay for a center. But I think you can't let that happen again. If Indiana has to, they're going to have to overpay for a center in this portal. And then you mentioned the lack of, I guess, energy and the hustle. Not even hustle. It was, running out of gas, that you said. There was a couple possessions where it's traditional Tom Izzo, Michigan State, off a made bucket, made free throw. They get a transition bucket. Should never happen in college. It should never happen at any level of basketball, much less high Division I Big Ten basketball. And it happened several times today. And that's just lack of, gas, really. They ran out of gas. There were several times just late getting back on defense, and Michigan State took advantage a few times. They killed Indiana everywhere. It wasn't like it was one guy. Like, yeah, you can look at Jackson Kohler, 21, Fears, 21, Kurt Tang, 18, hit 6 threes. Like, it was just all around, just like Michigan State killed Indiana from everywhere. But the one kind of stat I wanted to point out, I want to pull it up so I can get the exact time frame. So in the second half, Michigan State hit a bucket or scored. Jeremy Fears hit a 3 to go up by 12 with 7:05. They didn't score again until the 1:25 mark. So they went almost 6 minutes without this point. You would think Indiana would cut into that lead over a 6-minute stretch with their opponent not scoring. They scored 4 points in that stretch to go from down 12 to down 8. If Indiana's offense just could have clicked a little bit, just a little bit, like just even below average, scoring like a point per possession over that stretch. Indiana could get back in the game. They just couldn't. Michigan State locked them up down the stretch. And it was really because they just had to defend two guys, Tucker DeVries and Lamar Wilkerson. They didn't have to worry about anyone else because no one else was doing anything in the second half.
No, it weren't. So, obviously a lot to unpack there. But you look at just Indiana, their impact of the way that they're going to win games is obviously their offense, right? And when you have an opportunity, like you just mentioned, Michigan State going about 6 minutes without scoring a single point, and Indiana's offense is not able to take advantage of that, that's a major problem. And we've seen it way too many times over these last, I would say, 8 to 10 games or whatever, where Indiana's offense just goes silent, goes cold. And that's including Lamar Wilkerson. That's including a Tucker DeVries. They just go super cold. And it just goes to show you that Indiana doesn't really have any more in their what's the word I'm looking for? In their basically their tool bag, right? And they just don't have anything else that they can kind of rely on. Okay, the shots aren't falling and stuff. You would hope maybe they can lock in on defense a little bit better or things like that. But no, that just doesn't happen. And Indiana just they always dig themselves in these holes that game in and game out to where they just can't get out of that. And I give credit for Indiana, for the most part in them, keeping it within that 8 to 10 range and at least having some kind of a fighter's chance to eventually go on a run, but that run just never came. They did get it down to 5 at one point and everything, but like a Tom Izzo-led team and a disciplined team like Michigan State is, they work you until they find a good shot, and then they just had a kill shot after kill shot after kill shot against Indiana. So it's unfortunate because obviously Indiana had a lot of pressure in this game, pressure that they put on themselves because obviously if you beat Northwestern, you don't have the pressure of, oh, man, we need to go beat Michigan State, but it's exactly what Indiana had today. And it's very, very clear that Indiana's going to have to go – they're going to have to win these next 2 games, in the regular season, and they're going to have to go on a run in the Big Ten tournament to even have a chance to make the NCAA tournament. But I think long-term, obviously, with the picture of this Indiana team and everything, you see what they need. You see what they need to build in the offseason, and you just hope that Coach DeVries and his staff can kind of take what they've learned this year. A lot of hard lessons that was learned this year, so hopefully they can kind of right this ship a little bit and get back on the right track and get players that actually fit really well in what Coach DeVries and his staff want to do.
Yeah, and I think another thing is, as stupid as this sounds, and people are going to be like, oh, the season's over. It's not, though. As dumb as it is, this bubble is bad. You see like a 15-13 Auburn team that a lot of, like I think ESPN projects them still in. A 15-13 Auburn team that lost by 30 to Purdue, 30 to Michigan, but lost by 30 to Arizona.
It shows you how bad the bubble is.
Yeah, as bad as it is, that's Indiana's still alive.
Yeah.
Indiana should be out. Indiana shouldn't have a chance other than going on a big run in the Big Ten tournament. But they're still alive, as crazy as it is. And I'm not saying they're going to make the run. You're going to have, obviously, you have to beat Minnesota. You have to beat Ohio State, and then you're probably going to have to win at least two games to feel good in the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah. And
even then, that might not be enough. But
might not be, because you're going to have bid thieves and stuff like that too, because now you're going to start getting those types of teams, and those mid-majors and low majors and stuff that are going to be stealing some bids and stuff. So, that's what makes March exciting, I guess, because obviously there's so much that can happen, but Indiana's, when you dial back, and Indiana's the one that put themselves in this situation. Nobody else did.
Yeah, I think, I want to touch on this, like my last name before we wrap up. Lamar Wilkerson. I feel bad for him because you watch him play. He's one of the most dynamic scorers Indiana's had in the last 20 years. There's not you put him in the realm of I know Indiana fans are going to hate me for saying that, the Yogi Ferrells, the TJDs, guys, the ability to put the ball in the bucket. There's not many players of the last 25 years that have been better than Lamar Wilkerson to put on an Indiana jersey. And it's if you put him on some of the other rosters, put more talent around him where he doesn't need to score 30 every night for Indiana to win, because that's what it feels like. Even when he does score 30, like tonight where he had 29, it wasn't enough. And if you could I would have loved to see Lamar Wilkerson on a team like that, and that's the thing that I think, like, moving forward from this year, like, I'm gonna think about a lot. Like, what if Lamar Wilkerson got a chance to play on like a talented team around him? Because he's a guy like in the NCAA tournament, Big Ten tournament game, he can take over and win you a game. But is Indiana even going to get there to the NCAA tournament? Where like that's the issue. Like you have to get there for him to have the chance to do that on that stage.
Do you think, and this is kind of off of your not really going along with the Lamar Wilkerson talk, do you think that Indiana would accept an NIT bid? Probably, right?
Yeah, just
I mean, you got a lot of seniors and stuff, and
I think it's a little different than like last year, declining a bid where Woodson was already out, like it was announced he was gone at the end of the year. Like it wasn't like year one you can accept an NIT bid, and it's not the end of the world. I wouldn't be upset if they declined it.
I don't think any Indiana fans.
What's the other one? The Crown.
What's the Crown, but that's more of like that's a player one where it comes to NIL. So maybe you play in that one because the winners of that get NIL money for that specific players. Yeah. So maybe you go that one, but I don't know, man. I just wish there was more positive things to talk about this Indiana team. So I've got nothing else unless you got anything else to add.
I have one thing. Not really Indiana breaking news. I don't know if you saw our guy Joe Tipton had it first. Chad Baker-Mazara out at USC.
Out at USC.
He is no longer a part of the team, is what the school is saying.
Is he going to get his 8th year of eligibility?
The 26-year-old is no longer a part of the USC basketball program.
Indiana fans, it could be way worse, right? You could have, a program like USC that's kind of off the rails a little bit.
And like they got the dream coach. Musselman was like the dream coach you wanted, and not enough.
Yeah.
And
that's
I
wild.
will say that could matter because you look at like the standings in the Big Ten. Indiana could likely like face against like USC is a potential team they could face off against in like the first game of the Big Ten tournament for them.
I would like to see Indiana get another shot at USC because I think USC just got Indiana on a back-to-back West Coast trip, and Indiana was obviously fighting the flu too. And Indiana also played kind of well to win that game, but they just ran out of gas a little bit and stuff. But next game's Minnesota. It would be nice for them to kind of wipe away that earlier Minnesota loss this season, but Indiana's going to have to play a full 40 minutes, and they're going to have more balance effort than what they have tonight.
Yeah, you got to be better than what we saw today, and they're running out of chances to do so. But that's going to do it for us in this edition of the Hoosier.com postgame wrap-up. For Kyler, Staley, I'm Drew Rosenberg. Thank you guys once again for tuning in. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the Hoosier on 3. I don't know if you guys seen just high school football recruiting just keeps on adding the top talent, like the top guys who are tracking these players across the country. We added Shane Pickering to the Hoosier team, who's been covering high school football longer than I think I've I don't know how long he's been doing it, but for reference, he was there with Charlie Becker's first camp like 6 years ago. So he has been tapped into the Indiana Hoosiers recruiting scene for a while. So if you haven't done so, follow him. Make sure to subscribe to TheHoosier.com. Subscribe to TheHoosier.com on 3 on YouTube. Thank you guys once again for tuning in to another edition of the Hoosier.com postgame wrap-up. We'll be back.